So this week's episode of Bunny Girl Senpai, we start a new arc, which is pretty fascinating, I have to say. Now, the whole switching body things isn't anything original, but I have to say, applying it to Mai and her sister made for a really entertaining anime episode. What I like is how, even though it's just a new character just now in Mai's body, it's so interesting to see how a different personality interacts with someone like Sakta, who, Mai and Sakta are dating, but just how they respond to Sakta's just kind of very open and just very kind of forceful personality. Just a lot of people would want to smack him upside the head, and holy hell, it was just so interesting, and it made for such a unique kind of take on Mai and Sakta's relationship, because now his kind of attractive girlfriend is now trapped in the sister's body, and they're just so different in personality, and it made for a really intriguing episode. I mean, it was very clear, why they probably swapped very early on. The whole fact that she probably wanted to be Mai because she never could live up to Mai's shadow, something to that nature. But I did like how they kind of explored the two's relationship, because at first glance, it doesn't seem that kind of vengeful, that hateful. They seem like pretty standard sisters, nothing really that out of the ordinary. But once the episode starts going and they kind of open up and explore just how these kind of half-sisters kind of relate to one another, with how their father kind of screwed them both around, and the mothers were kind of competing against one another but using their kids as weapons, and you can just really understand why things ended up the way they did. The fact that, when Mai was in the showbiz, the sister could just never live up to her, never could get these gigs, but when she finally kind of retired or temporarily retired, she then started to become like this idol that was kind of getting up and running, and then Mai enters the scene, and in her eyes, she's absolutely screwed. And what I like about the dynamic here is how, I think if you remove the parents, this wouldn't be that bad. They would be normal sisters. Maybe they don't like each other, maybe they don't hate each other, but there wouldn't be that much reason to be so stressed out that she just can't land gigs. It definitely feels to me that the whole reason why this sister is so stressed out is because no matter what, her mother is kind of a bitch. She honestly is just using her daughter and feeling like her daughter and just treating her as if she's nothing compared to her big sister Mai, who can land all these successful gigs where she just can't, because everyone's their own person. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. The fact that the parents are using their kids to kind of compete against one another, but also kind of putting their own daughter down, it really shows you why this sister could kind of want to be Mai, why this adolescent syndrome could switch bodies, because she can't be Mai in her own mind, so maybe now she can pretend to be. So it was really interesting. I like how they're exploring it. It definitely feels like we might only have one more episode before we move on to the next arc. Maybe this will be a 3-episode arc, but it definitely feels like 2 episodes is all we're gonna need. I just liked it. I think, how much can you do with this whole adolescent syndrome? Because it seems like Sakta is a guy who just attracts it. I feel like that's going to be his adolescent syndrome, maybe, that he just naturally attracts people with these problems. But it was interesting because I was really curious, how is this whole body swapping thing going to function? Is it just going to feel like the same old Mai and Sakta relationship, or how is that actually going to flourish over the episode? And I think they found this really interesting balance of just so many moments where you're just laughing, because what Sakta generally says to Mai is what most people would want to smack him upside the head. At one point he says he wants his head in between Mai's thighs, and this girl's just like, what the hell does my sister see in you? It's just very entertaining to see how Sakta is interacting with his girlfriend, but not his girlfriend, all at the same time, but then also how Mai still checks in on him. She's saying how she just wants a bite to eat, but she just wanted to see her boyfriend's face. It's really interesting how they're able to nail this kind of genuine romance, but then sprinkle in such absurd elements that almost feels like in any other anime would shake the core relationship up, maybe even break them up. Honestly feels like one of the strongest relationships I've ever seen in anime. It honestly feels like nothing's gonna tear these two apart. I mean, they literally start off saying oh, I get to see Mai at school, and then Mai's not at school. And in any other anime, you would be worried, you'd be sweating, being like, holy shit, is she dumping him? Did she disappear? But no, it's just they swap bodies, that's why she wasn't there, no big deal. Holy hell. Any other anime, they would drag you along, making you worry, and just really do these very cheap tricks to keep the viewer interested in the episodes. But here, they just want you to know that this is a real relationship. They're not going to break apart. They're going to stick together. They're going to love one another. They're going to continuously grow together. And there is going to be these weird phenomenal experiences that are going to maybe get in their way at times, but nothing's truly pulling them apart. And that's what makes this such an interesting anime, because no matter what they throw at you, it always becomes interesting. And I'm so happy that Mai continues to be relevant. This is definitely one of her arcs with her sister, but it's just nice that she's not being pushed away and just being that kind of side character, because the continuous introduction to her and just how she interacts with these arcs, it keeps her relevant and makes the viewer constantly interested in seeing how this relationship is going to flesh out over the remaining episodes. And once again, the voice acting in this show is extremely well done. It honestly feels very genuine. Nothing actually feels that overly forced or fake. It just feels like natural people talking in a recording booth. So when these characters are having these very real, very human interactions, it just comes across as much better than your average anime because nothing about it feels animated. It actually feels like real people. Of course, they are drawings, they're animated, but the way the actors deliver their lines and the way the script just naturally feels like real dialogue. Of course, there is some more over-the-top aspects to the dialogue at times, but at the core, the relationships feel genuine friendships, genuine romances, and just the overall problems. Like, I can't personally relate to these sisters. I don't have an older sibling that, or even a younger sibling that I would have any kind of base to determine, like, does this actually feel realistic? But I like how, even though I can't personally relate to this situation, if you remove the swapping bodies portion and just the whole envious and the whole, like, you know, the families kind of competing, it made you feel like this actually feels realistic. This is something that can naturally happen in reality, and you understood why the sisters don't hate each other, don't like each other, but kind of have this envious and kind of distant relationship, and they really made you understand why everything was happening the way it was. And I'm pretty excited to see how the two's relationship is going to flesh out next week, what Sakta is going to find in that cabinet that he was not supposed to look at, but of course he's going to. Like, if you're going to tell someone like Sakta, don't look in this cupboard, he's gonna look in the cupboard. Like, I mean, Mai's known him long enough that she knows exactly what he's gonna do, so I'll be interested to see how that kind of cliffhanger plays out next week. It's gonna be very quick. It seems like anytime there is a cliffhanger, it gets immediately resolved in 2 minutes of the next episode. We'll see where it goes. So, excellent episode, excellent start to a new arc. Very excited for more. Anytime Mai is even more in the spotlight than she already is, you definitely know you're gonna have a great arc. So let me know whatever you thought down in that comment section below. Did you love it? Do you hate your favorite moment? Whatever you feel, and let me know. And be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content from me in the future. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.